Close your eyes just for a moment. Take a deep breath and feel this silence that lives between thought, between doubts, between questions you may not even know how to ask. Maybe you woke up today with that strange feeling of being lost, of not really knowing who you are or where you're going. And if you're honest with yourself, you might realize this feeling isn't new. It's been growing, quietly settling in, like an invisible weight on your chest, like a dense fog that covers the path and makes everything feel confusing, disconnected, meaningless. But what if I told you that this feeling isn't a sign of failure? That it doesn't mean you made mistakes or bad decisions or that life has abandoned you? What if everything you're feeling is actually a symptom, a reflection of something much greater unfolding inside you? There's something most people don't know, something we were never taught in school or in family conversation. There's an invisible map, a map of consciousness, a map that can't be read with the eyes or understood with the logical mind, but that is felt right here in the center of your chest. Dr. David Hawkins, a psychiatrist and consciousness researcher, revealed in his studies that everything in the universe is energy, and that every emotion, every thought, every internal state vibrates at a specific frequency. He created the map of consciousness, which shows how, when our vibration rises, everything that no longer matches that new frequency begins to collapse. It starts to break down, to dissolve, to lose its meaning. And it's exactly there, precisely at that point, that this strange feeling of emptiness appears, the sense of no longer belonging to what was, but not yet having found what will be, of not fitting into the life you used to live, and not knowing exactly which life is about to be born. It's as if you're standing between worlds, between who you were and who you are meant to become. Greg Braden, another great researcher of consciousness in the quantum field, reminds us that life isn't a straight line. It's not a predetermined path where everything is already set. Life is a field of infinite possibility, a field where all possible realities exist, simultaneous, just waiting for a vibrational command, an energetic signal coming from within you so they can manifest. So, this idea that you're lost is an illusion created by a belief system that doesn't understand how the universe truly works, because on the deepest level, no one is lost. What exists is transition. It's realignment. It's the collapse of the old so that the new can finally emerge. But I know that when we're in that place, in that space between what we no longer are and what we're not yet, everything feels confusing, even frightening. And often, our mind tries to convince us that this is a mistake, that we failed, that we're alone, abandoned, forgotten by life. But what if it's not that? What if this discomfort, this disorientation, is actually the way the universe has chosen to dismantle everything that no longer serves you? What if this is exactly the sign that something much greater, much more aligned, much more true, is about to be born within you? So now I invite you to take a deep breath and simply contemplate this possibility. What if the feeling of being lost is actually the exact point where your true life begins to emerge? Emptiness is not a mistake. It's a vibrational portal in disguise. There is a quiet pain, almost invisible, that few people have the courage to confess. It's that feeling of no longer knowing who you are, of not recognizing yourself in your own life. It's like waking up in a world that looks the same, but inside no longer makes sense, as if everything that once filled you now feels empty, colorless, tasteless. Maybe you know feeling well, that tightness in your chest that arrives without warning, that muted anguish that doesn't quite know what it wants, a kind of existential anxiety that pulses and keeps asking over and over, what am I doing here? Where am I going? Why does nothing make sense anymore? But there's something deeply true that almost no one notices. The ego, that part of the mind programmed to seek control, safety, and predictability, sees anything unknown as danger, because to the ego, anything uncertain, anything that escapes the old maps means threat, means symbolic death. But to your higher consciousness, to that part of you that observes everything in silence, the unknown is not the enemy. The unknown is expansion. It's fertile ground, it's sacred space where the new can finally be born. And this is where what many call the quantum limbo begins to emerge, a space between who you were and who you are becoming, a place where your old inner structures, the beliefs, identities, roles have already begun to collapse, but where the new, the true, has not yet revealed itself. In this, many people try to fight, try to resist, try desperately to hold on to the fragments of what's falling apart, believing it can still be saved. And the more they fight, the more they try to understand, control, fix, the more they suffer, because resisting the collapse is like trying to hold sand in your hand. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips through. So the discomfort is not a mistake. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you. In truth, it's confirmation that something deeply right is happening. It's the sign that your vibration can no longer sustain the old, that your soul is silently dismantling everything that no longer speaks to who you've truly become. Emptiness, though frightening, is not it's not punishment. It's not failure. Emptiness is space, fertile space, a space where the universe gently plants your new path. The invisible mistake, trying to manifest from vibrational incoherence. There is a subtle trap, almost imperceptible, that holds many people captive precisely when they most want to transform their lives. It's that desperate urge to change reality while still vibrating in the same inner state that created the discomfort, empty pain. Maybe you've lived that intense desire for things to change, the longing to manifest a new love, a new life, more peace, more meaning, more prosperity. So you start searching for answers. You chase after technique, formulas, method. You repeat affirmation, make gratitude list. Try to control your thought, but for some reason, nothing really shifts, nothing unlocks. And it's not because you're doing something wrong in a practical sense. Truth is, there's a more subtle misalignment, a vibrational dissonance between what your mind says it wants and what your energetic field is actually transmitting. Mental wanting by itself is not enough, because the universe does not respond to word. It doesn't respond to isolated thought. The universe responds to frequency, to vibration, to the state of being you are whole right here, right now. And when this search for answers is fueled by anxiety, by fear, by urgency, what happens is that the brain automatically activates the survival circuit. The amygdala fires alarm signal, placing you in a state of defense, of mental overdrive, of tension. And in that state, your access to intuition, to clarity, to the field of infinite possibilities simply shuts down. Many then fall into the trap of performative spirituality, the kind where you do the practices, repeat the mantras, post positive quote, but all of it as an attempt to control reality without actually shifting the inner state that creates that reality. Dr. David Hawkins was clear when he showed through his map of consciousness that below the level of courage, which vibrates at 200, all manifestation is inevitably being sabotaged by the fields of fear, guilt, doubt, and shame. And the more you search outside, the farther you move from the true inner resonance that holds the power to reorganize the quantum field. Because it's not desire that manifests. It's not isolated intention. It's vibrational alignment. It's the inner state of coherence between thought, emotion, and energy. It's that coherent field that speaks to the universe and allows life to finally begin to respond. The counterintuitive revelation, discomfort is your spiritual GPS. There's an unsettling truth, one most of us were never taught to recognize. Discomfort, that tightness in your chest, that quiet restlessness, that invisible knot that seems to have no name, is not a sign of failure. It's not a sign you've lost your way. It's not punishment. It's not defeat. Discomfort is a spiritual GPS. Yeah, it is the clear, precise signal that something deeply sacred is happening within you. It's the indication that you no longer fit into old frequencies, that your consciousness is silently expanding, crossing an invisible boundary between the old world, one where everything was control, fear, and survival, and a new state of being, where your true essence is beginning slowly to emerge. David Hawkins explains that every shift in consciousness inevitably involves a collapse, an internal collapse. The old identity, the old roles, the beliefs you carried for years, all of it begins to fall apart. And yes, this is neurobiological. It has a real physical, emotional, and spiritual base. The human brain was shaped over millions of years to seek safety, to avoid the unknown, to repeat pattern. And every time you move towards something that escapes control, logic, predictability, the brain automatically triggers a chemical mechanism. It releases dopamine, but not the dopamine of joy, inspiration, or expansion. It's the dopamine of urgency, of anxious searching for relief, for quick answers, for anything that might pull you out of that uncomfortable place. And this is where the trap appears, because driven by that discomfort, you start looking for you start running, seeking shortcut, external answers, guarantees, promise. But the more you search out there, the farther you drift from the only place where the real answer lives. Inside, there is a space, a very specific space, that quantum physics, neuroscience, and spiritual traditions describe in different ways, but which at their core all speak of the same thing. This space is the quantum void, the fertile emptiness, the point where the old no longer fits, but the new has not yet appeared. And as uncomfortable as it may seem, it is precisely there that real magic begins to unfold. Because it is in that space, in that field, that you stop being a consequence of your past and begin to become the active cause of your own future. When you start seeing this discomfort not as a mistake, but as preparation, as an energetic and vibrational process that is repositioning you, then something very deep begins to reorganize. Because in that moment, you stop resisting and begin at last to vibrate at the frequency of possibility, the frequency of the new, the frequency of the life that, until now, was simply waiting for you to become compatible with it. The hidden factor, heart coherence, as the key to a new path. There is something profoundly revolutionary and at the same time surprisingly simple that most people are unaware of. There is an intelligence, a wisdom, a force that doesn't live in the rational mind nor in the thoughts that endlessly repeat themselves. It lives in the heart. Greg Braden and the studies from the HeartMath Institute revealed something that conventional science ignored for a long time. The heart is not just a pump that keeps the body alive. It is a true emotional and energetic brain, a center of intelligence with its own electromagnetic field, a field 5,000 times more powerful than the one generated by the brain. While the mind lives in calculation, in doubt, in the attempt to predict, control, and understand, the heart connects directly to the field of coherence, to the field of intuition, to the quantum field of possibility, because the heart doesn't think, the heart feels. And in the vibrational universe, to feel is to create. When you feel disconnected, lost, anxious, it's because your mind is out of sync with your energetic field. The mind alone vibrates in beta wave, high, fast, agitated, typical of the survival state. And in that state, no true manifestation can take place. The field just reflects more of the same. That's why there is a secret, a vibrational key that can instantly bring you back to the center of your own creation. And that key is called heart coherence. Coherence is not about thinking positively, nor is it about trying to control your thought. Coherence is when your mind, your heart, and your body come into alignment. It's when your electromagnetic field stops broadcasting frequencies of fear, urgency, and doubt, and begins to vibrate with love, gratitude, compassion, and above all, present. And this is not a metaphor, it's physics, it's applied neuroscience. When you bring your attention to the heart, when you breathe slowly, deeply, conscious, and activate an elevated emotion like gratitude, love, or compassion, your energetic field shifts. Your brain exits the beta state of survival and enters more harmonic, more orderly brainwave pattern, typical of the creative state. In that moment, you leave the frequency of the problem. You exit the field of resistance, and you enter the field where the universe quietly begins to reorganize everything. Because the universe doesn't respond to isolated thought, nor to disconnected intention. The universe responds to what you vibrate. And when you vibrate coherence, when your frequency becomes compatible with the inner state of what you desire to experience, reality has no other choice. It begins, inevitably, to reorganize in your favor. Because at the quantum level, life doesn't happen to you. It happens from within you. The invisible bridge only appears to those who walk through the void. Imagine just for a moment that you're standing before a vast canyon. In front of you, not just emptiness, an abyss that seems impossible to cross. And on the other side, there is a land you cannot clearly see, but you feel it deep in your soul, that it's the place where your true life begins. Instinct, the mind, the ego, everything in you screams that it's impossible to cross, because apparently there is no path, no bridge, no trail, and yet something much deeper also whispers that if you don't take the first step, you'll never know. And then something unexpected happens with every step you take into what seems like emptiness. A bridge begins to appear, stone by stone, step by step, supporting your feet where just a second before there was only nothing. Dr. David Hawkins described this phenomenon as surrendering to the field of nonlinear knowing. It's when you consciously stop trying to control, plan, or understand and begin to trust. Not a blind, passive, naive kind of trust, but a vibrational trust, a trust that doesn't come from the mind. It comes from frequency. Because at the quantum level, reality doesn't reveal itself to those who demand guarantees. It doesn't open to those who need proof or maps or safety. It reveals itself only to those who choose to vibrate at the frequency of the unknown, the frequency of trust, the frequency of I already am. Even before any external evidence appears, the mistake then is not in failing to see the bridge. The mistake is believing the bridge must be visible before you take the first step. That's the spiritual paradox. You don't find the path finds you, and it only reveals itself when your vibration becomes compatible with the void. Then is not an end. It's not a punishment. It's not a sign you're lost. The void is the sacred space where the invisible bridge of your life finally begins to build itself, not from what you know, not from what you see, but from what you vibrate. The path isn't out there. It emerges from within you. There is an illusion deeply rooted in our culture that makes us believe life happens outside of, that reality is something external, separate, indifferent to who we are on the inside. That's why so often we search for signs, for answers, confirmations in the world and circumstances and other people, as if the path were hidden somewhere beyond ourselves. But what if that's not true? What if the path you've been seeking was never out there? What if everything you see, everything you live, everything that appears in your world is, in truth, nothing more than the exact reflection of the inner state you're holding? Dr. David Hawkins was extremely clear when he said, "You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are vibrational." And Neville Goddard deepens that understanding when he states, "The outer world is nothing but a projection of your own consciousness." This means that reality does not respond to superficial want. It doesn't respond to isolated intention, nor to requests made from the frequency of fear, scarcity, or of doubt. Reality responds solely and completely to your state of being, to the energetic field you sustain, consciously or unconsciously, every single day. And here lies the great key. The mistake is not in desiring. The mistake is in desiring from a place of lack, from urgency, from the belief that something outside needs to happen so that only then you can feel whole, safe, fulfilled, complete. When you understand that the real work, the only true work, is to internally assume the vibrational state of your destiny, something extraordinary begins to unfold, because in that very moment, the quantum field starts to reorganize everything in your favor. People, situations, encounters, opportunities, synchronicity, everything begins to move, not as magic, but as the natural response to your frequency. And maybe, just maybe, you begin to realize that you were never lost, that there was never a mistake, never a delay. You are right now at the exact point where the old dissolved and where the true you finally begins to be born. It is here, in this space, in this fertile silence, where the path is not revealed by the world, but begins deeply to emerge from within you. Because it is here, exactly here, that real magic